Hello there, and welcome to Fireside Chats with Dr. Dorothy. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate, particularly when you join me and listen to my story and hear my lesson learned, but also when you pass it on to other people, friends and family, particularly other military families who also may be in desperate need of help and support. Just recently, someone sent me a link to a military spouse forum, and I've been reading a lot of the questions and answers that are posted there. Sometimes I respond to them online, but I particularly want to respond to some particular questions and concerns on Fireside Chat, because I hope that by joining me, you will realize that I've been where you are. I understand where you're coming from. There was so often that I felt homesick, lonely, disconnected, missing family and friends, needing a support structure, and it just wasn't there. The military community does a much better job of this today. But one of the concerns that I was reading the discussion on just recently had to do with meltdowns. And the spouse was describing a husband who was deployed. The warrior was deployed, didn't say where, but at the end of a weekly visit on FaceTime, the children would have this meltdown and cry, and they didn't understand, Daddy was there and now he was gone. Why couldn't he come home? They were too young to really grasp what they were dealing with. They just knew they missed their daddy. And I know it's particularly hard for you as the spouse because you miss him too. And you need him too. And it's very much a part of the lifestyle. I've been there. I see you. And I feel you. Because I know that I often felt disconnected and lonely. I often felt uncertain, a lack of autonomy because the decisions that were made that directly impacted our family, I was not part of that equation. There was no autonomy in the decision-making. It had to be made according to what the military branch for whom he serves or she serves, what the needs are at the time. And so, over time, as I reflected back, once my husband had retired, I realized that this disconnection, this repetition of connecting, disconnecting, of uncertainty of what comes next and where, and then ultimately feeling insignificant to the decision-making process and having to deal with whatever those decisions are as a family, and knowing that I needed to be supportive. He had to be mission-focused, and yet we were dealing with life on an everyday basis, myself and the children included. So actually, everyone was serving. But back in the day, there was no mentorship, no systems in place to really support the needs of the family. Today, I do salute the military because they're doing so much better with this. But one concern jumped off the page at me, and it was a mother describing weekly visits over FaceTime with her warrior who was posting abroad. And she said at the end of the FaceTime each week that the children would just have this meltdown. And there was a lack of understanding. They just knew their heart hurt. And her heart hurt too. And so does his if it's a female warrior abroad. And I've been there. It hurts. It's hard. But I want to help you at least offer an opportunity to shift perspective here. Now, we've all heard the stories of our parents and our grandparents walked to school 5 miles, in the snow. Some of them, didn't even have shoes to wear, that kind of story. So I don't want to come across that way because I really do feel you and I see you and I understand. But back when we first married, there was no internet. And I know for many of you that's hard to even imagine because you grew up with computers and the internet. And so something like FaceTime as a useful technology tool was not even heard of at the time. So today, this young mother was frustrated because her children would have this meltdown when they got to have the FaceTime visit with the warrior, but then he was gone and he couldn't come back, not immediately. What I want you to see is to make a mindset shift. And instead of seeing that as a reason for angst when you had a FaceTime visit once a week, is to look at it from meltdown to miracles. Because the technology that supports that tool that connects you with him or her, whether it be 100 miles away, whether it be 1,000 miles away, or multi-thousand miles away, is a miracle. And I see it as a miracle because it wasn't available. When my husband, we weren't married at the time, but we were engaged. And when he was in Vietnam, it took 2 weeks for a written letter to get one-way delivery. There was no seeing each other, even though virtual is not as good as being able to touch and feel and hold the one you love. It still is so much better than never seeing them for often a full year, sometimes more. So try to shift your perspective and help prepare your child for on Sunday or whatever day is set for you to connect with your warrior, that you get to connect, that you get to see him or her. You get to see the expressions on their face. You get to see their eyes, their body language, feel their love, even though it's coming across virtually and it's less than one-on-one human contact. It is such a gift. So I urge you to shift your perspective from seeing it as a reason for meltdown when it's over, whether it be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that you get to connect. It's such a gift. It's such a miraculous tool that you have at your fingertips today. And so learn to shift your perspective to appreciate that opportunity to experience a miracle every week. And prepare your child. You are preparing the next generation for resiliency, for learning to cope with very difficult situations, for being proactive. Tell them, look, Sunday we get to connect with a dad. We get to talk to him. We get to see him. We get to feel him. Even though it's a virtual touch, it's so much better than not having that available. So I want you to know that you and your family are in my prayers. I'm reading what your concerns are. I care. I'll respond to each one. This is going to be a series of Fireside Chats in response to your question and answer forum. And I hope that as a mentor who's been there, who knows and feels what you're going through, can be really helpful and insightful and help you to shift that perspective to build a resiliency, not only in yourself, in your children, and be grateful for the opportunity to connect. FaceTime is a miracle. FaceTime is a gift. I love you all. I will see you next week.